Right, Remedy, let's give you the ball. Let's get going. First defining signing of the season. Who do you want to put forward?
I'm going to put forward Arsenal's number 9, Gabriel Jesus. So I know Lawrence opposite me right now. He had probably a love-hate relationship with Jesus for a few months in the season. He turned into Prime Ronaldo. And then the other months of the season, he'll turn into Marouane Chamakh. But I think with Jesus, especially coming into the Arsenal team and what we needed, I think we really needed that impetus, because last season we'd have players like Lacazette, Aubameyang, and whilst they were good at one aspect in terms of just goal scoring or linking up play, Jesus has come into the team and he's really provided everything. And in the Arsenal team where we need someone to link play, going behind, for example, I think when we look at Jesus, there's no... Okay, I need to put this in a way. Okay, when we look at the striker, I think there's no need, like direct need for the striker to score as many goals as Haaland, for example, at Man City. But what he can do is facilitate our wingers. So Martinelli and Saka, I think they've contributed to over 40 goals this season, both at the age of 21. And just the ability to bring that out of them too, I think we could really say he has a big impact. Although he has missed 4 months of the season through injury, we can still respect the impact that he's had for Arsenal so far.
I think because he had a great start to the season and it was what Arsenal, to a point where I was going to say screaming for, but I'm not. Well, look, Aubameyang got booted out and they had to bring someone in. He was that guy, and he had an amazing pre-season, didn't he? An amazing pre-season, and then caught fire. He's actually only got 9 goals and 5 assists this season. Question to you, Boovie. Like, just put it all to the side for a second. You're talking to Gabriel Jesus right now, okay? And he's asking you, he's saying, how good am I? How would you, just tell me honestly, said Gabby Jesus, what would you say to him?
I'd say
honestly?
in the most polite way. I'd try and say
as
it in
unemotively
as well,
as possible.
Try and say it in his native language. But I'd say you are never in a million years a world-class striker. It wouldn't make him friends with me, but I'm at that point prepared
no,
to
but
say
he's asked for that honesty. That's what friends do sometimes.
He's not playing for Fulham. He's playing for Arsenal. We're trying to compete for the Premier League title. Look, are they happy to be a top 4 club that are pushing second and third positions, or do they want to be winning a Premier League, then another one, then another one, then a Champions League, then a domestic treble like Man City? Jesus isn't the striker for that.
Okay, next question. Because I think the dexterity that he has to play along the front line, drift over to the left-hand side, work his socks off. I was going to sort of ask the question, what's his best position? But I think that's probably a little bit reductive. So here's that question when you're talking about where Arsenal are trying to get to. He's not the same player, but in terms of facilitating Saka and Martinelli in particular, is Gabriel Jesus, although you feel like he's number 9, leading the line, striker, goals, 9 goals, 5 assists. Again, he's missed some time. Does he have the ability to be the Firmino in an Arsenal team, where Firmino is not world class? He's not all those things that you're saying. He's not going to win a semi-final for you. Though I'm sure someone will tweet me and tell me he probably did. But the goals aren't totally there. But again, in terms of allowing Saka and Martinelli, would they have got to this level without Gabriel Jesus? And when we've seen what Mane and Salah have done over the last 3 or 4 years, can the same be recreated, obviously in different form?
I think it's a bit different, because when we look at, I think Martinelli definitely, because he's that goal scoring type of player. I think at the age of 21, 15 goals, no penalties is a really good return. Amazing. But I think Saka is a bit different. Saka is getting those goals, but I don't think that's his role. I don't see Saka as like this goal scorer week in, week out. I see him as an unbelievable creator.
The bottom line is, for the next 3-4 years, if you want to do what I've just said and compete with Man City, that front line needs to provide 80, 90 goals a season. If Saka's not going to become Salah, someone's got to. And does that mean you're left wanting Gabriel Jesus?
I think it's slightly different, because with Liverpool, it was just those 3 goal scorers. I think with Arsenal, the goals are a lot more spread across the team. You remember that Man City team when you guys won the league with Gundogan being your top scorer? He scored 13 league goals that season, but there was no one primary goal scorer. There were goals all over the team, and I think that's where Arsenal are trying to go towards.
Do I worry about him scoring against City in big games or scoring against Man United in a cup final? I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
That's just my gut,
No, okay. And I think, that Arsenal have gone to another level, and he's been a part of that. So I think that's totally fair. with the injury that he's had, we probably don't know the truth yet. We need to see how he gets on next year. But he had started to lose a little bit in terms of scoring those goals. Let's stick with Arsenal because it's very difficult, and I know you struggled as well. And this is a different angle on it. So you've got Zinchenko. The two Man City boys came through. So let's kind of run through those. Because Zinchenko, here's a ripple effect for you. So I started the ripple effect as a transfer series because it looked like Zinchenko was going to Arsenal and everyone's talking about that. And I was going, well, hang on, what happens to Man City? Man City, well, they're going to go get Cucurella. And everyone's very flippant about that. I was like, well, what about Brighton then? And then we created the ripple effect. And here we are, boys.
Genius.
Here we are. Here we are. Thank you. There are no original ideas. But so, in terms of him signing, I think, first of all, it's interesting to think that Kieran Tierney wouldn't be a starter for Arsenal. To say that a year ago, I think would have been a huge surprise. Has it surprised you that Tierney just can't get near this team, or you thought as soon as Zinchenko came in, oh, okay, it's got to move forward, it's got to change?
Yeah, I remember earlier on in the season, I might have tweeted this crazy tweet. I think I tweeted that, like, I kind of regret it, maybe not so much. I think I tweeted, like, watching Zinchenko is like having a taste of caviar. And then
have you ever tasted caviar?
Absolutely not. But like having that taste and then going back to Tierney trying to replicate that role that Zinchenko did, it's not the same. And the reason why I think Arsenal fans, I love Kieran Tierney, but it's come from a point of unreliability. So I think last season, apparently the story was allegedly, got to protect you here. Okay. I think allegedly he like got an injury in the shower and he didn't disclose it to the team.
Right.
And then he got injured playing on international duty and that crippled the whole team. So if you're trying to push and win title after title, you can't have unreliable players. It's tough to have in your team. So Zinchenko coming in, although he has his injury problems, it's not like he's going to miss 3 months in one go. Tierney's a great option to have for us, but Zinchenko coming in has really elevated us to a level that I didn't imagine at the start of the season.
Yeah, because it all feels like, oh, okay, this is how we watch football. You have these inverted fullbacks who sit there, and it was obviously Cancelo was the first. Feels like the first. Philip Lahm was probably the first, but Cancelo was the first in the Premier League in a big way, and everyone's kind of like jumped on board with it. What I liked about Zinchenko, so a few things. First of all, when they bought him, I thought, okay, what they're really getting here is they'll have a certain amount of depth, but it will be sort of hybrid depth. And Zinchenko, I like the idea that he could play left back, but ended up walking into play deep line playmaker, but could play in Xhaka's role if you need him as well. What I also think is interesting, if sticking to the concept of the podcast. So him leaving Man City was supposed to be the move that allowed Man City to buy Cucurella, which obviously didn't happen.
Thank God for that.
I know, but if you had him, how different would that be? Because it led to Nathan Ake, who I've now sort of apologised because I was never sure about Nathan Ake.
I agree.
He's now one of the best left-sided defenders in the league. He's been so consistent, one-on-one, superb in the Champions League as well recently.
Yeah.
And also probably played a part in Cancelo leaving. But more than anything, actually, poor Cucurella, everyone rated him. Everyone rated him because he was in a club where maybe the expectations were lower. Harry made a great point about Newcastle and the expectations of those players, and if they don't do well, you don't talk about them, but you don't, go after them. And then when they play well, then you can just give them, be really kind about them. That was the sort of scenario that Cucurella was in. He then goes to Chelsea, and it's very different. But if he's at Man City, I wonder he would have a lot more confidence. Is what I'm trying to say. He would be seen in such a different light. That move to Chelsea has been an absolute disaster for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this whole podcast could just be about Chelsea transfers and no one else, and it could be...
we'll get there.
Talking about the most embarrassing transfer strategy in the history of modern football. I mean, is that bad?
It's aging badly.
Cucurella could have come to City and done well. He has got technical ability. There's no question about it. Defensively, he's frail, but Chelsea, Sterling's level's poor. Kai Havertz, Mason Mount's not even starting big games. You could say, even Kante, has injury problems. Thiago Silva. There's a lot of major concerns at Chelsea. So I don't blame Cucurella within. It's not his fault. He's the most expensive fullback in the history of football. That's not his fault.
This is a massive problem for so many signings now because it will. So Anthony, Harry Maguire, Darwin Núñez, Kepa. It follows you and follows you. Do you know why? Because of lazy punditry. Because what happens is that when you have these guys that don't read up. They then go, I've seen it so many times, and people know that I've spoken about this before. I remember doing something with Rory, and I asked someone a question, and they made a blank statement like, "This is the fact," and I went, "Why?" And they
what was it? What do you mean? Just the price tag? You mean?
It was about someone saying Bruno Fernandes was a good player, and I got told, I was on a live stream, I got told, "Can you just keep this going for a bit longer?" And I went, "Oh, why is it?" The person said that I'd seen him play. He's great, and I said, "Oh, why?" And he went, because he thought it was just like a quick comment and we move on. And what we all do, so this isn't about that person, is that we then go, what do I know about this player that I can say because there's a camera in my face? And a lot of these players, it's the amount of money that's paid for them. And so Maguire, Kepa, all those players, that's a big part of it. And that's something that Cucurella, I think we could chuck in there as well. There certainly is an option in terms of defining how bad Chelsea have been, but we've got other names as well. But back to Zinchenko, it's amazing that all that happening kind of led to Man City. Well, the truth probably is that Pep Guardiola just seems to find a way to figure it out. But the players that he's let go, one of your names, Boovy, is another player that Man City let go. You're not although you've strengthened one rival, you've not hurt yourselves, have you?
No, I think Raheem Sterling going to Chelsea is that he's a legend for City. He's one of the most important players to come out of England for the last 10 years in terms of the amount of goals he scored in the Premier League. His influence on the England national side is absolutely huge. He's been a Champions League level player for City for 5-6 years, and we signed him at a young age. He's a fantastic signing for the club, and he's a borderline legend outright. When he went to Chelsea, I would have sold my kidneys to get 50 million quid for him. It's unbelievable. You make a break even on him. He's a lot older. He's still in his prime. He's still a young kid, of course. But he goes to Chelsea. I knew for a fact he wouldn't have the same impact because he felt like a system player under Guardiola. He knew the runs to make. He was getting told exactly what to do.
A lot of nice tap-ins, wasn't there, for him?
With all due respect, and a lot of great finishes on top of that. He actually built his game, especially in the Centurion season. He scored, I think it was over 20 league goals, or at least 25 in all competitions. I'm so glad we got some money back for him, which is break even. We got 6 years out of him. He's, again, 4 Premier Leagues in 5 years. He helped us on the final day of the season against Aston Villa. Yeah. He's a fantastic player, but I knew that Chelsea would struggle with him because it's just a different situation there.
The big thing I say about Raheem Sterling, I look at it from a slightly different angle, because I remember doing a video when they signed him, and we looked at where he could play, and he could play on the left, he could play as a central striker, he could play in the 10, he could play on the right hand side, and the thing that you had there was actually a guy 27, 28. Yes, you got your money back, but that was cheap. 50 mil for an attacker that's won leagues, has experience, can deal with the pressure. What this says to me, this signing, I think it is defining to a point. It shows that even a smart bit of business from Chelsea, because of the chaos all around it and their inability to stick with someone, and I think probably the noise around it as well, and their inability to shut that out, which is another thing Harry said about Arsenal with Arteta when they could have got rid of him. Sterling should, as much as he probably wouldn't work as well, he should work in a good team, a good system. And it's not worked at all because he's been playing all over the place or not starting.
I think the problem is with Chelsea, over the past few years, you're never going to see an attacker that thrives in that system. You talk about Lukaku. When he came in, Chelsea fans were saying, this is the player that we've been crying out for. Unfortunately, it didn't really happen that way. You talk about Kai Havertz, Pulisic, Ziyech, all of these names that I'm saying, you might remember a game or two here and there, but you don't remember a sustained period of form over the entire season. And unfortunately, Raheem Sterling has just fit into that mold of unfitting Chelsea players. But I think this also speaks about Pep as well, and why he's always able to just get rid of the player just at the right moment. Like, just at the right moment in the fact that he can secure a lot of money for them, but he knows that they're not really the same player in the team anymore. He's done it with, like, I don't think, if you guys had Jesus right now, for example, I don't think he'd be playing as much. I don't think he'd be scoring as much. He wouldn't be getting as many opportunities now that Haaland's here. Speak about Zinchenko as well. Whilst Zinchenko could be playing, you maybe found a better option in Nathan Ake, and again for Raheem Sterling. Do you guys really miss Raheem Sterling that much right now?
No, or Zinchenko or Jesus. That's why we let you have him for cheap.
Yeah. I mean, the Zinchenko felt wrong at the time, but obviously you're playing a different way now. I think the point here is it's the macro management. So and I've certainly read this, Guardiola makes it very clear to the entire squad, it's going to take all of you. And we're going to play 60 games. We will play around 60 games every single season. And so I don't want all of you playing. So Foden, you can go off for a couple of months, or Sterling, when Sterling was there, he would have patchy moments where he was playing loads of games in great form, then come out, then go back in. With Chelsea, they've had the same sort of depth, but the best teams have the depth to kind of get around difficult periods, busy periods. But you also know who the starting 11 is. You know who the starting 11 is. Even this Arsenal side, and the great run that they've had, or even Newcastle, this year, and how well they've done. Look, injuries play a huge part in it, but you know what that back four is. You know what that team is. With Chelsea, you haven't got a clue, because even when we talk about Ziyech back then, they've just like, who's your starter? Who's your starter? Like, you haven't got a clue with the bulk of that team, and that is the thing that, again, when you go say to the manager, but it comes from the ownership, is if you don't give them that space, that breathing space to go, okay, what do you need? Where do you want to go? Okay. Oh, well, I can see what you're trying to do here. Then, and understanding what your starting 11 will be, then just chucking money at it, which is exactly what they've done here. Yeah. You know, people will hammer Man City all the time. Fact is, everyone you buy, you either move them on smartly, or they play a huge part, or they'll play 25 games and be okay with that, right? And then you move them on at the end of the season when it works for you. That's the thing with this. And so you had Enzo Fernandez as one of your options here. He's probably the one guy that you do know is going to start for Chelsea this year.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why I wanted to speak more so about him is just like the fee, firstly. Like, I can't justify on a player over 100 million.
So where are you on that? Where are you at with that one? Because I got hammered for that, saying it was too much.
Nah,
but he's good, isn't he?
I think he's a good player. I think people thought of him as this physical beast that goes from box to box. I don't think he's that type of player. I don't think he has the legs as like a Kante, but no one has Kante's legs. But I think, like, looking at Enzo, me personally, I can't justify transfers over 100 million pounds. I don't care who you are. 100 million pounds is a lot of money.
Not for a defensive midfielder. No. It's look, he's really good, and this is the thing I kept saying, is that if he stays for 15 years, but talk about John Stones, 50 million at the time looks way too much at that time. But he's there 7 years, and he plays so many games and is brilliant for you. Then you go, okay. So if that does happen, he does stay for that amount of time. And again, in the current climate, maybe. But even so, I don't know. I think you can be smarter.
And I think, like, when it comes to like sort of rebuilding a team, I think the Newcastle model is like one of the best routes to go down. You focus on physicality, you focus on getting the legs, and then when you get to the required quality, then you add those pieces that elevate your team to the next level. So Newcastle, they're at a point now where their midfield is mainly legs, so they can add like a James Maddison, for example, and that'll take them to the next level. Chelsea, they did it the opposite way. They bought the quality straight away, but that sort of physicality, that running through the spine of the team, they don't have that in a way that Newcastle do. That's why Newcastle are in a much better position than Chelsea right now. So I think Enzo, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but I think maybe he was signed a year or two too early in their project timeline. If he came in where Chelsea were third, second place, and they need that player to just get him over the line, Enzo, perfect.
I've got two names in front of me here, and I think it's interesting because Enzo Fernandez, for me, I actually really like him. I love watching him. I think you're right, he hasn't got a burst, but he can run a game. But he's, say, the Real Madrid game, basically all they did away from home is they went, give it to Enzo Fernandez, he'll spread it wide, and then we'll see what we're going to do from there, because they don't have that striker, which is hilarious when they've got 11 forwards. But he's a good player. And when we talk about defining players and defining signings, in 10 years' time, of these two names, Enzo Fernandez and another pick of yours, Bouvie, Mykhailo Mudryk, which one will be the name that is the sort of the centerpiece, the sort of iconic name that is associated with the transfer business of Todd Boehly in his first year at the club?
Well, I think just going to talk about Enzo very quickly. I think he will be a flop. I think 100 million quid. I think he's bang average. I think it's hard.
What do you consider a flop then?
I consider a flop. Javi Garcia came to Man City. Good holding midfielder. Fernando, good holding midfielder.
Nah, come on.
No, I'm not saying that he's at that level, but these midfielders look fantastic in other leagues. This guy's got very limited European experience for Benfica, very, very limited. He's nowhere near good enough for Chelsea. Mark my words, he'll be a massive flop. But that's just my opinion. I think he'll be a major flop. Well, it depends what Chelsea's level is. He'll be fantastic against Rotherham United next season in the Championship. The big one for me is Mudryk. For me, Mudryk, the money for him, nearly £100 million. The way they blew Arsenal out of the water, it felt greedy. It felt obnoxious the way that they did it. And then I think you actually look at the footballer, take the money out of it, which I think is a fair point about the lazy commentary sometimes. But the money itself was disgusting for him, for his talent. 11 international caps for Ukraine, a handful in the Champions League, and then you're playing in the Ukrainian league, with all due respect. This will go down as the worst transfer in the history of the sport that we've all watched and loved ever. This guy is nowhere near good enough. He's got no physicality. I don't think I'll never see him score 10 goals in a Premier League season. I don't think he's good enough to stay in the Premier League for more than a couple of years. I think he's a Galatasaray 2025 signing waiting to happen. Seriously, I'm not trying to berate a player, but this is the world. He gets the fancy money. You know, he gets the big money, and that's the reality of being a footballer. He's in a luxurious position. I just don't think he's good enough to be a Chelsea player.
I'd say the price tag is 62 million up front and then 26.5 in add-ons. I mean, might save some on these add-ons. I think, look, that amount of money being put on his head is unfair. But coming back to why they went and bought him, there's you can be really top line and lazy and go, well, these other guys have done all the work and they seem to want him, so he must be good. So, okay, by association, fair enough. But it just stank from the start for Chelsea to pinch him when he clearly wanted to go to Arsenal. And then he's come in and people are getting so excited about 20 minutes as a cameo against Liverpool. And he's quick, but he's not got a single goal yet. He's got 2 assists, to be fair to him. But more importantly, and look, I think Cucurella is not that bad. Not this bad. But there's more data on Cucurella. Mudryk can't be this bad, but he is crumbling under the expectation, and he can't even get in the side. I agree with you. I think if you're a Chelsea fan, you want it to be about Enzo Fernandez, but the problem, I would say, even if you try and put the positive spin on Enzo Fernandez, who I think actually is wonderful. I really enjoy playing, but I like players like that, to be fair. It's just one guy and you've spent 600 million. I can't even remember many of these other names just yet. Mudryk, he just looks like he's playing on ice.
I think the problem is, I think Mudryk needed Arsenal more than Arsenal needed Mudryk. I think Mudryk,
he would have been on the bench at Arsenal and people would have gone, okay, because you've got Martinelli, because you know what your starting lineup is. That's what I'm talking about.
He's a Premier League level quality player. He's fantastic. Arsenal fans would agree he's coming in, influence things. He only scored 1 goal, isn't he, in the league, with 7 assists or whatever. So he's 10 times the player that Mudryk is right now.
Yeah, Data had scored that season, 28 years old as well.
He's barely starting for Arsenal, and Arsenal fans don't want him anywhere near the starting 11 now that Jesus is back.
I'm not so sure.
Sorry,
people want that front three of Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka 9 times out of 10.
Sorry, what's your point?
The point is that if Mudryk had gone to Arsenal, this guy ain't getting a minute.
No.
I think it's different because Arteta is in general, his track record with wingers is amazing. You talk about, there's this whole thing at Man City where
Arteta?
Well, yeah.
Pepe?
No, it's a good point. Sterling's level was the notable one that dropped off when Arteta left.
Okay. Yeah, for real. Sterling, Sane, and then he comes to Arsenal, you have Saka, Martinelli, and he's taken them to a completely different level. Okay. I think the way, it's just small things in general. I remember watching an F2 video with just Arteta teaching Jeremy Lynch how to score a goal and just how to position his body. It's just simple things.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy Lynch has got some serious techers.
Exactly, but just simple things like that. And I think Mudryk would have absolutely needed that. And at the time when Graham Potter, he was the Chelsea coach, and I'm thinking, Mudryk, come on, man. Obviously it wasn't his choice to go to, obviously it is, he signed the contract, but sure. I think he was pushed to go to Chelsea, and I think he needed to come to Arsenal to actually realize what his level is.
Well, that's it. I think the truth is we don't know if he's any good or not.
I do. I think he's terrible.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure.
Can you not see it in how he takes his first touch, his physicality, how he approaches the game?
Yeah. Yes, but he's also but Arsenal did want him, right? And Arsenal have got it right over the last, 18 months or whatever. So I think the thing he's gone to Chelsea and it's so ruthless there. And you just get plonked in and you go figure it out. Whereas at Arsenal, he wouldn't have got a minute really, or he would have got 10 minutes when it worked. But the most important thing is that the expectation would have been tiny on him.